What are we watching, people? Alright? So, today, if you didn't realize by the title of the video, we're going to be talking about Naruto, specifically Kid Naruto. I know, for some of you, this is an absolute travesty that I would break up Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. And the reason it being is because I don't think I could talk about all of it in 25 minutes-ish, so I'm gonna have to break it up. I'm sorry, I know I've let you all down, but we are also going to only be talking about the canon stuff, so we should be able to get through it relatively quickly, and that's why this is the time that I actually give my final rating. Go check it out, like, comment, subscribe, whatever you have to do to remember that you need to come back to this video once you've watched Naruto. And to be honest, I mean, let's all be real. Alright, even if you haven't seen all of Naruto, like, you've probably seen clips, like, you know the basic idea of Naruto at this point. So, like, I'm gonna give a spoiler warning, but at this point, if you haven't seen Naruto, I'm just kind of confused. So, actually, if somebody hasn't seen Naruto, please comment. I want to know how many people actually haven't seen this, because this got, like, super popular on release, then it had a dead period, and then it got super popular again, like, maybe a year ago or something, so I would be very curious to see if just people haven't watched it. But without further ado, I'm going to be starting at the beginning, which is out of 3 points, right? So if you have a good premise, you have a interesting main character, and you have a good hook, wow, congratulations, you have 3 points. Does Naruto have this, you may be wondering, asking yourself, deep in your soul, right? Yes, I mean, you could take the first episode type deal with Iruka Sensei and the Shuriken, where, like, Naruto learns how to do the Shadow Clone Jutsu, which I think is this hand sign. And you could also take the Land of the Waves arc, you could take the training arc that Kakashi has them on in the very beginning, well, training arc, more of just like a training episode, where he has them, like, tied to a pole, essentially. So you could take anything, and they're all great, because I think the beginning of this series starts out incredibly strong. Like, shonen protagonists and stories usually have a very good hook at the beginning, or some great climactic arc right off the onset, and Naruto definitely has one of the stronger starts I've seen. Even if you take it into something like, I know this is blasphemous that I'm about to say, you know, the One Piece guy, right? Oh my god. I think Naruto as a series has probably a stronger start than One Piece does, because for One Piece to really kick up, because I enjoyed it from the first, like, bit, right? But for One Piece to really kick off, you gotta get to, like, Baratie, and then, like, stuff actually starts happening, right? Because the Usopp arc with Syrup Village is, like, whatever. Some people like it. I think it's okay. And so from Naruto, it kind of just, like, immediately kicks off. You got Kakashi almost immediately, which is a baller character, right? One of the goats of the series. You've got Zabuza, which was a great starting villain, essentially. And you could also say, no, dude, it was Gato, or whatever the freaking mafia boss's name was. But I mean, let's all be honest, we don't remember him. We remember Haku, I think, and Zabuza, because they were the main focus of that, and they also did the Water Dragon Jutsu, which who else was trying to learn all the hand signs to Water Dragon Jutsu when they watched this series? I'm just saying, if you're not raising your hand, you're not telling the truth. It's just a fact of life, let me tell you. Anyways, I think the beginning gets 3 points easy. It's got one of the strongest starts out there for shonen anime. I don't think it's a 4 necessarily, because it is, at the end of the day, still a shonen anime start, which they all kind of function in a similar way, right? You got, like, your underdog character-esque, right? And then they have a dream to accomplish something, right? In Naruto's case is Hokage. And then they have this adversity or something, and then by the first, like, thing, it's overcome a little bit, and you're like, yes, that's my goat, right? So they all kind of do the same thing, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my god, this revolutionary idea. I think we gotta talk about characters next, and who else to mention first but the main man himself, Naruto. And for analysis, right, like, off of him as a kid, I think the main difference between him as a kid and him as I guess a teenager, right? Because he's like 15 or something once Shippuden starts. But like the difference between Shippuden Naruto and Kid Naruto is that the underdog factor is way more influential in the Kid Naruto version because he's actually pretty much just one of the weakest people out there. If you don't think about the Nine-Tailed Fox, so just like don't think about that, and we're just going to think about what he can do as a person. He has a lot of shadow clones, he has very meh fighting skills, and that's about it. And his intellect, sadly our boy's not there. You know, I'd hate to be the guy who says that to him, but you know, sadly, he's not the smartest. That's Shikamaru's job. He's the smart one. He does the shadow thing, and everybody was like, oh my god, his fight was so cool. And the tuning exams, his fight was definitely one of the cooler ones. That's all I'm going to say. Actually, fun thing to do in the comments, right, while I'm discussing characters. Write what your favorite fight in the tuning exams was. I don't care what stage. I just want to know. I think mine is pretty much either the Neji versus Naruto, or it's Shikamaru versus Tamari. I love those. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I will gladly say it. I think Gaara versus Sasuke is a little bit overhyped, but I said it, and I don't regret it. So I think overall, he's got great drive, insane personality, and I think he's still a great main character after all these years. I mean, I don't think you could ask for more in a shonen protagonist. So I will give him the 3 points because I think you gotta put respect on his name, right? He was one of the OGs, and he stood at a time when the shonen category was still being kind of developed in a way, right, with the big three. And so I think you kind of got to put some respect on him. He did a very good job as a main character, so I think if you don't give him the extra bonus point, it's kind of like an insult. Although in Shippuden, you know, maybe I won't give him the bonus point. Because the underdog factor definitely skews how good of a character I think he is, so let that be said. Anyways, antagonists. So, here's what I'm gonna say. I think, you know, for any series that has a lot of runtime, I think antagonists are a mixed bag. And especially in Naruto's case, because I will only be talking about the canon stuff, right? But you don't have exceptionally deep character writing when it comes to antagonists until Shippuden. But in Kid Naruto, it's more about the mystery factor, right? Because like Orochimaru, ooh, he's the evil dude because of reasons, I guess. And then you're kind of like, oh, what's his deal, right? In Kid Naruto, you don't really know anything about what he's trying to accomplish. And he does that very well, but there's not like a deeper factor to him. And you could go Kimimaro? The bone dude, right? You could talk about him, but even then, his whole personality is just like, I will devote myself to Lord Orochimaru. And he doesn't really have anything past that. You can also talk about Kabuto, which I think is probably the best that they had in Kid Naruto, just because he was a turncoat character and that was interesting. But at the same time, I don't think his arc was especially spectacular. And Zabuza is also a really good one to talk about, like the whole hitman type deal, bounty hunter-esque. And then the Gato signs him up and then eventually kills him, whole thing happens, and then he kills, you know. You could talk about all of that, and I think that's good, but when I think of Naruto, I don't necessarily think of the antagonists at all. Until the Akatsuki show up, and even then, they're a different problem, right? Because they don't really happen until Shippuden. So you see where the problem gets to be this category for me is because there's not really... Most of the antagonists are like set up antagonists for the stuff to happen in Shippuden. And since I'm cutting it off at Kid Naruto, right, which ends after the Sasuke, like when he runs away to the thing, I think that hurts it a little bit. Also, I think the people that they fight on the Sasuke arc specifically, which the one I'm talking about is the Sasuke recovery mission, right, is a little bit questionable. And even if you want to take Sasuke as an antagonist in that arc, I always thought his fight against Naruto was just a little bit... Like, it means a lot, but it's also just like, what the heck are you doing, Sasuke? Because it's like, you know you can't trust Orochimaru, right? everybody knows you can't trust the man. You're like, but I need the power to avenge my village. And you're like, wow, dude, that's so cool, Sasuke. But what's the plan? You know, so I don't know. I think antagonists are only okay. I'm going to give them 1 point. I think that is justified because most of them don't really show their full colors until Shippuden. And that's all I'll really say on it. I don't know. I don't think they have spectacular ones like a longer running series. Like, you could even take Black Clover. I think Black Clover has some really good antagonists in the early game. And even something with a shorter runtime as well, like Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter has some freaking phenomenal antagonists within that shorter runtime. Naruto, not so much. But then again, you know, you got an insane main character, so maybe it wasn't really your focus. So, with that being said, we're going to move on to side characters, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, right? You got goated characters like Kakashi. You got goated characters like Jiraiya. You got goated characters like Tsunade. You've got mid characters like Sakura. You've got mid characters like most of the people in the Chunin exams, except for like Rock Lee, Gaara, Tamari's cool, Shikamaru's neat, Choji because he's funny. Am I missing anyone? I think that's it for characters I actually cared about in the Chunin exam. And then everybody else is kind of meh. Oh, Guy's great. But you see what I'm getting at? It's more of a mixed bag where you either have this hype character that you really love in Naruto and you're like, oh, great, let's go! With Guy, or like Rock Lee. Or you have this character that you just can't stand to see on screen or any like character type because you've fumbled the bag with them so many times that you can't possibly recover, and yet you're still trying in Sakura. And so you see where the problem becomes is like you have this goated main character, but because they're so goated, you focus too much on them and everything else suffers. So I'll go ahead and say I'm giving side characters 1 point because I do think you have some great ones, but at the same time, you know, if you're half and half, you know, they kind of cancel each other out, so I'll give you an okay, you're passing, right? As for story itself, I think the story of Kid Naruto is pretty good. I think it runs into a little bit of the problem of it's essentially just setup, right? But it also does it in an interesting way where, like, the Chunin exam's iconic, really. A lot of tournament arcs even now try to be as effective as the Chunin exams. And even if somebody were to argue that they're not that effective as a tournament arc, I would love to see what they think is more effective as a tournament arc, just because of how good it was. Land of Waves, insane setup, right? You've got Naruto's underdog thing. You've essentially set up Kakashi Sasuke as the edgy guy, right? And also, Sasuke is like the framework for every edgy character maybe ever, like in a shonen series. So just let that be known, how influential he is. You also have Tsunade, which, what an incredible setup arc, kind of like training setup arc. The Tsunade one, right? Where they end on the 3 summoned beasts, where it's like the slug, and then Gamabunta, I think is his name, the giant toad, and then the snake for Orochimaru. That was insane. I loved that arc. Especially, I kind of watched bits and pieces as I was making this for you, my loyal commenter, men, right? And I definitely rewatched that bit because I was like, oh man, that's super cool. And then the Sasuke recovery mission is just a neat way to end the series because it's not what you would have expected the ending point to be, if that makes sense. Because, like, you knew the conflict with Sasuke and Naruto was going to happen at some point. That was just, like, inevitability. But you didn't really know that that's where, essentially, his journey as a kid ends. And then he goes off to, like, Jiraiya and everything. Also, talk about one of the best, like, teacher characters, right? Jiraiya, such an iconic teacher character. So, I do think for its faults in pacing, right? And some of the things like the Ino-Sakura fight, if anybody remembers how bad that was. Also, the questionable thing, like the third Hokage just kind of outcasting Naruto the entire time is also a little bit odd. And how he kind of just gets completely jebaited by Orochimaru, where you're like, really? Did you actually fall for this? I do think it takes it down a bit. So I will give it a 3 out of 4. I don't think it deserves any lower or higher just because there are some questionable bits, but there's also like such iconic stuff. I think it's got freaking iconic world building. I'll go ahead and say it. It doesn't fall into the problem later in Shippuden where they have the whole technology thing and then they do the mind jutsu anyway, and where they just have completely sidelined all these different countries in Shippuden. But in Kid Naruto, you kind of just like experiencing everything for the first time, which is neat. You get to learn all about the jutsus, you get to learn about the ninja ranking system, which inherently I always find interesting how, you know, because he wants to be Hokage, so what are the steps to being Hokage? And then you've also just got the tuning exams as a central mock world building thing where you have all these different nations coming together for this competition. And so then you're like, okay, then we can show off these kind of nations, their styles, their aesthetics, everything all in one place, which is why I think that arc is very good as a tournament arc. And also you've got stuff like the 3 sages, where, you know, you got Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru. Very interesting there. I believe you also get to see Orochimaru's hideout, which is interesting. And just stuff like that. I think it's very good when it comes to world building. I don't think it's masterclass level, because even within the runtime, I think it doesn't set up everything insanely well. But it definitely is just kind of nice to just kind of be like, ooh, look how fun everything is, you know? You're kind of just experiencing it as Naruto is experiencing it, which is nice to have, in a way. You don't necessarily feel overwhelmed at any point. You're just having a good time, and honestly, that's about all I want in a series. And the world building's neat. I think it gets taken advantage of later because of its faults in Shippuden, where they kind of just throw everything away. But from setup-wise, which is essentially what Kid Naruto is, I think it does a phenomenal job. It's just about the journey, right? The journey was the friends we made along the way, or something like that. You know, that's a Naruto thing, probably, guys. Maybe. Who can quote me on that? You know, believe it? Oh, dude, that's better. I think it's a great world. Believe it. See, now that's funnier because Naruto says that all the time, which I may also be wrong on this, and I want to get this off my chest because I think I've been lied to. All right. So everybody says Naruto's catchphrase. What is it? Oh, it's believe it, right? But how many times does he actually say it? I want an actual count because I believe. Oh my god, now I'm saying it. But I think he only says it maybe 10 times. I don't think he says it that much at all. I think we've all been gaslit into believing that this is his phrase. And you know what? If I am wrong about this, I want to see proof, and it better not be filler. It's got to be canon, and then I will accept this. But otherwise, I think it's straight cap, and I won't hear about it. So I'm going to give it the 4 points, if anybody wanted to know. I think the world building, I do think it's 4 points level. I think it's super deep, especially from Kid Naruto's perspective. Anyways, the ending, right? Ooh, the Sasuke thing. Ah, he betrayed us. Who could have seen that coming? So, do I think it's a satisfying conclusion, right? Do you think it's a satisfying conclusion? Some would say yes, some would say no. And I'm in the category of yeah, because we always knew Sasuke was going to do it. I mean, let's be honest, the man was the ultimate edgelord the entire time. Even his design screams edgelord. So he was like, I need the power, Naruto. I need to go off on my own. And then the build up for the fight, it's definitely foreshadowed maybe the entire time. So I don't think it's necessarily a very shocking end. But that's not to say it's not good, because foreshadowing is important, right? Because you can build up the fight to be way more climactic than it could be without the build-up, right? So I think overall I liked it. I will say, for one thing about the ending though, like the people who are taking Sasuke away, like who? I mean, can we all agree? Like the most basic copy-paste characters, like no personality aside from what their outward appearance is, essentially, and then they all have some variation of the same idea with the curse mark, which granted it's different, so at least there's that, but then it's just like meh. I don't know if I'm the only one who thought that, but I thought that they were the most boring part. I liked Bone Dude though, because he went against drunk Rock Lee, and that was funny, and he freaking floored him. So I was very much about that fight. And then Gaara comes in, they have like a duos kind of moment. That was pretty cool. Running duos in Naruto, who knew? But I think it's a satisfying conclusion. It also sets up Shippuden, right? Because we gotta go save Sasuke because he needs saving probably. And I think it rounds out the series because in the end he still lost, right? He still needs to get better about controlling the Nine Tails, about all this different stuff, and that's just kind of the fact of life with him, right? So if he won in the end, it would almost feel odd, right? Because his big win is going to be Hokage. So for him to beat Sasuke there, it just wouldn't make sense, in my opinion. And so I like it. I think it rounds out the series of the eternal underdog fighting for what he believes is right and for his friends. And, you know, he just came up short. But he won't come up short when it counts later. Because then he does the whole thing and they just forget what character writing is in Shippuden. And who am I to judge? Fine, I'm not upset about it. Anyways, I'm giving it the 3 points. So all in all, we've got 3 points for the beginning, 5 points for the characters, the story itself 3 points, world building 4 points, and ending 3 points. So you've ended with a great 18 out of 20. Let's go, let's clap it up, right? Woo, great job. And I think honestly, if you haven't watched it, you know, try it out. I will say the pacing sucks. You know, the anime does an awful job. It's not a great moment, but hey, you know, you could get through it if you skip all the filler. Woo! Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Oh, also, for the openings, I always keep forgetting about the openings. My favorite, I'm gonna have the hot take. I think the first one is the banger, and I don't care what anybody else says. The first opening is the best one. I rest my case, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.